There is just one major contest happening in Maine on primary day, June 14th. It is the battle in the 2nd Congressional District that will decide which Republican is on the ballot come November. There are two candidates in that race, Liz Caruso and Bruce Poliquin. Bruce Poliquin held that congressional seat from 2014 through 2018, was elected in 2014 and 2016, lost his re-election bid in 2018, and is with us here on 207. Thanks for coming in. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here, Rob. Thanks.
So you've been out of office for a few years. It gives you a chance to sort of reset. Yeah. What have you learned in your time out of office that would make you a better congressman?
Well, my parents are in their 90s. Dad just passed away in March, so I learned a lot about helping as best I can folks that are quite elderly. That's really important to me. I raised my son from the time he was in diapers as a single dad, so I sort of have seen both ends of the spectrum, Rob. That's been very important. I've been very blessed to have that time with Mom and Dad. Dad just passed away a little bit ago, but Mom is still with us and got that spirit. So I've learned that. Second of all, I've also seen front and center how much impact the government, federal, state, and local, can have on our lives. We right now have problems we didn't have when I was serving. We have the highest inflation in 40 years. Everything costs more, from groceries to rent. We have the highest gasoline, diesel, and heating oil costs we've ever had. We have an open border that's been open for a year and a half.
Right. Those are all legitimate issues, but they're kind of away from the question that I asked. So let's move on to something else. Certainly a topical issue right now. It looks as though the Supreme Court of the United States may well overturn Roe versus Wade. Would you support the overturn of Roe versus Wade?
Well, that's up to the courts. It's not up to me.
Yes, but would you applaud that decision if it were to happen?
Well, if it happens, then it goes back to the state. So the abortion procedure would still continue. It wouldn't be outlawed. Now, I happen to be pro-life. I'm very proud of it. But it would go back to the states, and we, the people, would decide with our state representatives.
Do you think that is what should happen? Is that an outcome you would like to see, that it goes back to the states and then that issue is decided by voters in each state?
Let's wait and see what the Supreme Court does. It's their decision. It's not my place. I don't think it's anybody in the legislative branch's place to cheer on a decision made by the Supreme Court. Let's let the Supreme Court decide in June, and then we'll see if it stays the way it is now or it's remanded to the states and the states decide. We'll find out.
Let's look back at the 2020 election. Who won the presidential race?
Well, here in the state of Maine, President Trump was the certified winner in the 2nd District twice, in 2016 and also in 2020. There were clearly irregularities caused by the pandemic, I think, and other issues in the 2020 election. But it's up to the states to make sure they secure.
And this is a convoluted answer to a straightforward, clear-cut question. Mm-hmm. Who won the presidential election in 2020?
Here in the state of Maine?
That's not what I asked. In the United States of America, who won?
We have a president that I don't favor, and we have the highest inflation rate we've had in 40 years, Rob. And unfortunately, we're on the wrong path. We need to make a change. What I can tell you is I'm running my own campaign. We had a different president a couple years ago, and we didn't have the problems we have now. All I can tell you is that he was the certified winner in our 2nd District. That's great, but I'm focusing on my campaign. I don't look back, I look forward.
This is a question that goes to the heart of a functioning democracy, that when a candidate wins an election, there is a peaceful transfer of power. Why are so many Republicans unwilling to acknowledge that Joe Biden won and is the properly elected president of the United States?
Well, he's the sitting president. We only have one president at a time. And I have, for example, I have condemned January 6th, those riots in the Capitol. I mean, it was just horrific. I've also condemned demonstrations that turned violent here in Portland and in Seattle, Washington, New York, Boston, and Chicago, and so forth and so on. Violence isn't the answer. But we have a different president now. That's what I have to deal with. And we're on the wrong path, and it's not working, and we need to make a change.
Scientists tell us that the Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 99% of the world's ocean bodies. It's a clear sign of a warming planet. Give me one or two specific steps that you would favor to address global warming.
We need to make sure we continue to go down the path the United States has over the past 25 years. For example, we now have about 60 or 70% less pollutants in the United States, primarily because we are starting to use and have been using more natural gas to generate electricity than coal. We're replacing coal, which is dirtier, with natural gas. Unfortunately, this administration is shutting down pipelines, and they're preventing us from increasing our supply of natural gas, which has been a big benefit when it comes to pollution in this country and greenhouse gases. What I would support is reopening our supplies of natural gas and oil here at home, get back to energy independence, increase the supplies of all forms of energy so we can drive down price. That's what I would support.
In Uvalde, Texas, a man who had just turned 18 years old a few days earlier, went out and bought 2 assault-style rifles. He wasn't legally able to buy a pack of cigarettes, couldn't legally buy a beer. He went out and bought 2 assault-style rifles and murdered 21 people. Would you favor a change in laws so that teenagers in this country can no longer buy those types of weapons?
It was horrific, Rob. I'm a father. I can't even imagine someone having the cruelty and the evil to do that. It is horrific. Now, we've all given a lot of thought to this issue. There are a number of things that can be done. When I was serving in Congress, there was a...
Can you just answer that question? Would you favor a change in the law so that 18-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds could not buy those types of weapons?
Well, at the federal level, you can buy rifles if you're 18, but you need to be 21, which is a federal law, to buy a handgun. The rest of those decisions are left to the state. So the state of Maine has laws, the state of Massachusetts.
Would you favor laws that bring about this change?
I would favor any laws, and I'm trying to answer your question. Here's what I would do. Give you an example. We sent a boatload of money around the country in 2018 specifically to secure our schools. We've had $15 billion of COVID money that's come up to Maine, $15 billion, which is 4 times the annual budget to be used by schools and hospitals and everything else. I think it's absolutely critical, and we've seen this. We need to resist what a lot of folks have done about putting armed, fully trained security officers in our schools. We can't have the most vulnerable among us, Rob, that are exposed to this madness. We need to secure our schools. We have plenty of money to do it. And we need to do other things. For example, we need to look at social media violence, if you will, or violent rhetoric that all of these young adults, it seems to me, have been engaged in. That's another good filter we can have in the background
because we're
checks.
up against the clock, and we want to give you the same amount of time that we are giving to your opponent in this race, Liz Caruso. So that's the final word. Bruce Poliquin, thank you for coming in. Appreciate your being here. And if you'd like to see our 207 interview with Liz Caruso, you'll find that online as well in the 207 section of our website or app. We're going to be back in a moment.